Willow Creek Springs presents Healthy Living with your host, Joe Grumbine.
Hello and welcome back to the Healthy Living Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Grumbine, and today we have a very special guest. His name is Jon Engelson, and he's a seasoned expert in diet, nutrition, and holistic healing. He's got over 30 years of dedicated study to the field, and since the mid-90s, Jon's been instrumental in helping his clients, family, friends embrace natural healing through dietary interventions. And that alone connects us deeply because, as anybody knows, I'm all about the food and the diet and as a primary pillar of health. So, Jon, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Doing great. A little bit hot here in New York, but it's all good.
Yeah, I've heard you guys are really getting baked right now. I'm in Southern California, and in the Inland Empire, and generally it's 100 plus degrees, and it's been seasonably mild for us lately. So I think we switched places.
Yeah, I guess we did. I mean, I grew up in LA,
All right.
West Los Angeles, so I know it very, very well. And I went to school at UC San Diego. So
Got it. Well, it's been a crazy weather dynamic the last few years, and apparently it's on track to keep getting crazier. So hopefully we can start figuring some things out as a race of humans and maybe turn some things around.
Great to be with you. Thank you again.
Absolutely. So food is obviously one of, if not the most important pillar of health. And today, we live in this information world where information's everywhere, good, bad, and sideways. And every kind of diet these days is touted as the way to health. And you've got the raw vegans, and then you got the carnivores on both sides of the spectrum. And it's my opinion that there's so many different kinds of people that there probably each of these diets might be the perfect one for a particular person. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your experience with diet, nutrition, and holistic healing?
Sure. I like to grab that because those are very similar thoughts that I have, and I'll go into some of the details. So I grew up in a very medical family. My father was a doctor and professor of medicine at USC. My grandfather was a doctor. My uncle was a doctor, head of Chicago Medical School. I was pre-med at UCSD, but I did not. I ended up with a degree in economics. I kind of bucked trend.
That's a big twist.
Yeah, I guess I have a very short attention span, and I didn't think I could make it through 7 or 8 years of medical school or even more. I just didn't have the dedication that, a lot of my friends did.
Sure.
At the time, I was more, boogie boarding the beautiful coast of La Jolla and Del Mar, and, study here and there. That was my motto. But I play music. I play piano. I played in a rock and roll band.
To have quite a bit in common. My dad was a surgeon, and I didn't like school much at all. I turned out to be an entrepreneur and started a bunch of businesses, and went my own way. But knowledge and intelligence generally don't have a whole lot to do with school.
Correct. I mean, and we find that out later, and that the school system works for some people, but for the entrepreneur, which I share your thoughts and your feelings with, having started the company from scratch, a couple of companies, and so I really went in that direction. But in my health and nutrition, let's just say genesis, in my mid-20s, I was misdiagnosed by some of the best doctors in the world, so to speak, in Beverly Hills. My father sent me. I had, at the time, they said an enlarged liver and spleen, and we had all the testing, and thank God, at the end of the whole process, which went on for a number of months, they said they made a mistake, and
Wow.
that sort of set me on a path that I always thought like there was something in the system that wasn't quite right. Unfortunately, my mother had multiple sclerosis, so I had to, she had to deal with a lot, just as her son, seeing her slowly debilitate over the years, in walking with crutches and then wheelchair and then becoming paralyzed. So then dealing with that not seeing her helped, with all the standard medical treatment. So I sort of hit a journey at that point. I was about 25, and I met somebody named Mayor Abacera, who is a master in macrobiotics, and I had some small health issues, coughing a lot, mucus, and he put me on a particular diet, and I started to get very interested in diet and nutrition from that point, and also alternative. We learned a lot about, because he knew a lot of other things, including herbal supplements to take and homeopathy, and that just started my path, and I went very, very strongly since then, and I feel like I'm on that journey now, almost 40 years from that, and learning along the way, and changing paths and learning about things. And what I found, and in my own seminars that I've given, here in New York and in other places, my mantra is two words, and that is, I think it will resonate to where you started the conversation with, is what works.
Right.
I've seen things, people in macrobiotics work very well. I've seen carnivore work unbelievably well.
Sure.
And I think, God has blessed us with many, many paths to the golden ticket. And
it's interesting. Just recently, I had a group of people over. We're building a sweat lodge in my gardens, and this amazing community that I've been cultivating for a little while. And we were sitting down sharing a meal, and I looked at one of them, and we were talking about, similarities, and, how people say, "Oh, you're just like me," and this and that. I said, the only thing that we have in common is the fact that we're entirely different. And I think that that's an important thing to remember. You're talking about your journey of health and the different facets of it. Again, we share a lot of common things. So maybe one day we'll share some stories about how we came to where we did, but it sounds like we walked down a similar path. And the thing about holistic wellness and health and healing is that people think, oh, you're all about herbs, you're all about supplements, you're all about homeopathy, whatever that one thing is. And there's no one thing. There's so many things, and you can spend probably many lifetimes, just getting to know these things, much less becoming an expert at it. So I really like the fact that you seem to be on the journey, and probably never leave it, just like me.
Well, yes, and I think in a certain way, I was lucky that I didn't get pigeonholed into one way of thinking, and this is the issue. And you have the allopathic medical world, and you speak to somebody about alternative things, and they look at you like you're crazy.
I don't know about that. Yeah.
And even in the homeopathy world, they don't like the herbalist. The herbalist like the homeopathist. Nobody
kind of opposites. The homeopathy is about
like the vitamin. Nobody likes the supplement vitamin people.
Oh yeah.
So, and I'm like, I've seen this stuff work well for everybody. I've seen, you get a bruise, you take Arnica montana.
Sure.
You start to feel a little bit of nasal congestion, you take Echinacea golden seal. Okay, one is homeopathic, one is herbal.
Right.
Things like turmeric, other things that can reduce inflammation, unbelievable herbs. So I'm like, you're stuck. People get stuck in these corners.
Right.
And even people that are, look, I really got into diet study. I accelerated in the last few years.
Okay.
Because the diet that fascinated me the most recently is carnivore, because to me it went against all of my thinking, of it just sort of subterfuged my whole way. And I said, I got to be open to this. And then I saw person after person after person after person being helped in one way or another. You know, so I didn't care so much about the messenger. I was caring about, like, I would watch the messenger and then I would look at the comments, and each comment was like, I'm 68 and I had high blood pressure. This, that, I changed like this, and now I'm feeling. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. But even in that world, you have people more extreme and less extreme. I mean, you have people like Anthony Chaffee that if he touches a vegetable, it's like the world is going to come to an end. But right. That's not the way it is for a lot of people, so
exactly. And frankly, there's a whole nother twist to that, is that if somebody has cancer, that's the opposite of what they need. So there are these caveats and these different facets of things, and again, I tell people all the time, you got to pay attention to you all the time, because we change. Somebody can go along and have a metabolism a certain way, and then all of a sudden tomorrow they might be allergic to the very thing that used to give them nutrition. And if you don't pay attention to it, you can have a world of problems. And
yeah, and nobody's in, this idea that like everybody, like normal blood pressure should be 120/80 for everybody. It's like saying everybody should be 6'2", 203 pounds. So
exactly.
Me, he says, "Oh, the doctor wants me to put on blood pressure medicine."
Right.
So fine, I'm thinking he's got really high blood pressure, and he got, what's your blood? He goes, 135/85. I'm going, you got to be kidding me. I mean, right. Like, are you joking me? I mean, if you're not 160 or 180, like, what is it? What is that? And so, look, we can divert to the philosophical discussion of, the FDA, Food Drug Administration. Like, right. What does food have to do with drugs? I always said, right. What's the two? And then you realize the junk in the food, because they're putting so many chemicals.
Right.
So, God forbid, the bad health, which leads to the drugs, and the cycle is over and over again.
100%.
And as an economist, I have, and an entrepreneur, and you can share this, I love the free market. I think it's amazing. I buy a bottle of water or whatever I buy, and I pay $1 or $2, and I'm happy and they're happy. But
right.
The place where it doesn't work well is in two places, and it's the place where we're discussing, and that is in the food industry and in the health industry, because right. You're healthy, there's zero money for any of the companies.
Exactly.
Zero.
Exactly.
So the issue is the bar keeps lowering because they have to keep themselves in business. So what people they gave at 50 now is 45. That 45 is 40.
Right.
Like 8, now it's 10, less. So between the spectrums, they keep telling you got to have this, and they use the two primal emotions, which is fear. I mean, the two primal emotions that we have is fear and greed of human beings. So they use fear. If you don't do this, this is going to happen. This is going to happen. Right. And in the food companies, the only way they can raise their profits is by lessening the quality of their food. So right. It used to be 3 ingredients in the food. Now it becomes 6 or 7 of really bad ingredients, like maltodextrin and all these things that are made from corn, and just highly refined things to get people to continue to sort of addict them to the products, and the sugar.
That's a whole world.
The whole sugar is just unbelievable. So
the other side of it is that the price of things, the more processed it is, generally the cheaper it is, and correct. The more pure and close to source, generally the more expensive it is. And so you start to get into these dynamics of, the people that can even afford to eat quality food unless they grow it themselves. And, how many people have the space and the wherewithal to do that? Not nearly as many as used to, for sure.
Hi, this is Joe Grumbine, and I wanted to share an update. The platform that hosts this podcast has made some changes to the subscriber settings, and we have a number of subscriber-only episodes that we offer to the supporters, and for a minimum of $3 a month, we can get you signed up. And if you're already signed up and you're having some kind of trouble locating these episodes in the other platforms, I would say maybe the best answer is to unsubscribe and then resubscribe. I'm sorry for the hassle. I don't have any way to make a change, but I'm very grateful for all the support. Thank you.
Yes, they've taken that out of our hands. So it's become they've addicted us to bad food because it's really tasty and addicting.
Oh yeah, it's designed that way.
And then they've made it inexpensive for us.
Right.
So we can go to.
It lasts forever. You don't have to worry about it going bad. You just.
People don't think about, and it's amazing because people don't think about the quality of the food. They think they're just getting full in the morning.
It's good. Yeah, it tastes good and it's filling and.
Exactly.
There you go. It's good. It's easy. It's you drive down the road and you look at where the food information is coming to you, and it's incessant, and it's all fast food. It's all quick and easy and competitively cheap, if you will. And you're never going to see a billboard that says apples.
Right. Exactly. And I had this discussion with somebody the other day. It was like, and even the price of things, people don't care. They'll go to a Starbucks and they'll get like a coffee and a donut and whatever it is, Danish.
Spend $20 on it.
Yeah, whatever it is. So I particularly like eggs that are soy free and corn free. I buy very high, and for eggs, I might pay 80 cents to $1 an egg.
It's crazy, yeah.
But if I have 3 eggs for breakfast, that's $33.
Yeah, it's really nothing.
That's 1/4 the price, and I have 18 grams of protein, choline. I mean, all sorts of healthy.
Eggs are a beautiful food. A beautiful
nutrition.
Yeah.
And the guy's like, "Oh, that's expensive." I go, "But you just spent $10 for nothing that went into
$12 on a cup of coffee with some sugar in it." Yeah, crazy.
So the mindset of health has to, so if we have to pay a little bit more, so isn't that important? What's valuable to a person? And that's what I want to try to instill in people. Like, don't be cheap on that. You'll go out and you buy all the things that we buy ourselves.
Right.
Here and there, and you're going to be chintzy on, if you got to go a little bit better, go a little organic, things like this, and support people who, because it does cost more,
That's a big point. I have a little farm and I have chickens, and people, don't have any idea really how much it costs to feed animals and things like that, especially if you're going to feed them well. And, that's, to me, actually, I'm blown away at how cheap eggs are when you look at the price of food. And, we feed our chickens well, and those eggs are worth every penny that somebody might pay for them. I guarantee you that. And then the work it takes to grow good vegetables without putting a bunch of poisons and fertilizers on, it requires quite an effort. And when you go to a farmer's market or some local store that supports local growers, you know what? Whatever they charge, it's worth it. I guarantee you.
I agree. And this is a mentality and that I'm trying to help people with to get out of this. I got a deal, or I'm going to get something cheaper, or something like that. Value means that we pay for what we get.
Exactly.
So if you want garbage and you want junk and you want to buy the extra size cereal that has no nutrition in it
Exactly.
for $4.99, from Costco,
Right.
go ahead.
Yeah.
I mean, you can do that, but you're not getting any nutrition, and
Exactly.
you're just putting empty calories into your body. And for you to have nutrition, you need to have the right whole, fresh, and real. I call those three things: whole, fresh, and real foods.
Agreed.
And move to that, we're going to see. I have clients that come to me, and it's very hard for people to change. Very,
Okay.
very. That's why, by the way, and we could sort of segue into this. That's
Sure.
why I'm a very, 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 very powerful believer in anecdotal evidence when it
Sure.
comes to health and nutrition over empirical, because I can tell you this: people will pay me money as a health consultant,
Hmm.
put them on a particular way of eating,
Right.
and they're paying good money, right?
Right.
And they can't hold on to that for 1 week or two,
Right.
many of them. And I can go into reasons why, but it's very difficult.
Yeah.
So when they tell you 100 people did this in a study, and
Right. Yeah. Sure they did.
in 2 months they ate like this, I'm like,
Right.
you're joking me.
No, I totally appreciate that. I'm on a ridiculously rigid diet right now as I'm overcoming my cancer, and trust me, most people couldn't handle it for a week, much less it. And it doesn't even matter. Like, people will know these things, and their life is at stake, and they still won't do it. It's worse than an addiction, really. I think your eating habits are some of the most deeply ingrained patterns that you have in your brain, and they're real hard to unwind.
And exactly, and the two clients that come in mind in particular, one was and both of them have the same issue. A lot of people have the same issue: overweight,
Sure.
pre-diabetic,
Right.
high triglycerides, A1C at 5.8, 6, whatever.
Right.
And here I'm trying to change it. So one,
It's a relatively simple solution.
yeah,
It's just not easy to do.
exactly. So one guy is a single guy who's older guy, single, and he doesn't know how to cook. He never knows how to cook for himself. So I'm
Right.
like, I try and he wouldn't even know how. One of our sessions was just going to one of the supermarkets to show him what type of foods
Yeah.
to actually.
Fry an egg, man. It's the easiest thing to do. You can't
Yeah.
mess it up,
And
really.
for us, it's like second nature. Like, I'm like,
Right.
I can't believe these people. And the guy who was married had 4 or 5 kids, and he was like, "Oh, so I have to have my chicken without those sauces and out this thing," and like, it became complicated. It's not so simple of how to change this. So
Agreed.
when I look at somebody, and when I say anecdotal, I say like this: if somebody comes to me or I hear of a story and they have these issues, then I try to ask the questions: what led up to these issues? What are you eating at this point? And if that's what's leading up to the issues, then I'll say, listen, maybe we need to move, obviously, toward a different way, sort of the opposite way. If something's going this way, we got to turn it around. So,
Right.
and usually that does the trick for a lot of people. So
if you get to the source of a problem and make a slight adjustment, then kind of the compound effect takes care of it after a minute. But if you're busy trying to make these big changes to patterns, the brain just goes, I don't want it, I don't want it, I don't want it. It's like trying to, quit an addictive drug or something, a really ingrained habit.
and I 100%. And Joe, I tell people all the time. I try to drill this in. It's not a zero-sum game. It's not an all or nothing. It's incremental. If you walked 5 floors instead of take the elevator that day, you did something positive.
Exactly.
That's what it's about. That's why all these things fail, by the way, because the guy says, I'm going to go to the gym 5 times a week.
Right.
On January 1st, they buy
lose the weight and get ripped in a month. It's like, yeah, no, you're not.
They buy the clothing, they get all the stuff, and then
Right.
2 months later, they're petered out. So you
Yeah.
got to work into these things, and you have to do one of the influencers I kind of like is this woman named, I don't know if you've heard of her, Lily Kane.
Name sounds familiar. I don't know
Yeah,
her,
yeah.
but
But she's
I'll look
very,
her up.
very bubbly and very, and she's like, I just saw a video from her today. She's like, you're not going to stick to anything unless you like to do it. So if you want to exercise,
Exactly. Yes.
fun. You like ping pong, do ping pong.
Yes.
You know, and if you, and
100%.
she goes, I can't eat liver if they paid me to, so don't
So
tell
don't.
me to eat liver because I can't stand it. So
Right.
if you can't stand something, you're not going to keep eating it. So you have to work around people and make it more of a happy, and an attitude also plays a great part in this.
I could not agree more. I call it vitamin J. It's, if you can find some joy in a thing you're doing, you'll do it. And, you know, for me, I have a little stream in my property and I dig that stream. That's my gym. I go in there and I dig it out. I find water comes up. I keep the fish alive. And I'm like a little boy. And I get a big workout anytime I want it. And I keep moving. And it's my crazy little thing, but it works. And I find my way, you know, to health that way. But anybody, you find anything that you enjoy doing and determine that it's helping get you on your path, even some, then, you know, go after it because you'll do it because it's fun.
Exactly. And again, it has to look, it's like everything in life, there's always a double-edged shield. People have some serious health issues, but if we can solve them a little bit joyfully, meaning with ways that can bring joy to the person,
Sure.
that's going to be a very, very helpful matter. And also what a lot of these people in the diets world don't take into account, I don't see enough of it, you know, and I look at a lot of people, they don't take into account the social aspect.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's like, okay, I'm on this incredibly amazing diet. I'm super, super healthy. But, you know, you want to go out to dinner with, a couple. So what,
Right.
you don't go out to dinner anymore? You don't do it.
You become that guy, you know, you can't go anywhere.
Can't go anywhere.
Or you're the jerk at the restaurant that's like, do you have this crazy thing? Or,
you know,
I got to take all this stuff off of my thing. I was just like,
So the social aspect, I think that's why I'll speak for a country that I love a lot because is Italy, and the Italian. You know, they have a lot of joy around their meal.
Food is culture. It's all part of the whole
It's very healthful food, meaning it's all fresh.
Yeah.
You know, you see it grown, and it's like there's actually a restaurant in Italy somewhere. I was looking at one of the history things, and they don't have any food for that day except for the food that they're going to serve that day.
Right.
All fresh.
Yeah.
It's crazy. There's no refrigerator in the place.
Exactly.
It comes in and they're serving it, and it's like, wow. It's like, so the joy around food, the time around food, the idea that we made, you know, this 1 hour lunch break where the person takes 10 minutes to run to get to lunch,
right?
Order your food and eat in 10 minutes and then run back. This is insane.
Crazy. Yeah. They'll spend 2-3 hours, you know, in a meal, and half of it's preparing, sitting around talking about it. And it's,
and the idea of preparing food is such a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Like, my wife is a great cook. She's Lebanese actually, and she has a lot of great recipes. But I love to cook, and it gives me a lot of, you know, after a day of, you know, let's say, you know, working. I do a lot of marketing, and you know, I want to just go to the kitchen and put fresh food in and try different things, and it's a joy, and it's very sad. You know, the young people today, I don't think they even know where food comes from.
They don't. I have a garden, and we offer what we call therapeutic horticulture and education. And people come to the garden, and they see, you know, vegetables growing, and I watch their eyes get big. They're like, "Oh wow, I didn't know that." You know,
that happened.
That's where food came from. Yeah,
it's like unbelievable. The miracle. I mean, God's miracle of food is like, you didn't put the seed, you didn't make the seed, you didn't make the ground, You didn't make any of this, the water, the grow, everything, and all
None of
this.
it. You just try to tend it and put it together where it works. You
Exactly.
didn't make any of it. Yeah.
And all these things come out. This one comes out, a tomato comes out, a celery,
Yeah.
this. It's so unbelievable. Like
Yeah.
the wonder, the wonderment of it is
Yeah.
lost. And I think, you know, if we can sort of get that back grassroots to help, I mean, anybody, everybody and anybody, but to particular young people. And I like to, you know, help young people in that way, because I feel like it's very, very important for them to know, you know, where things come from. I mean, it's crazy, you know, and it's
I think that's entirely important. So we're running a little thin on time, and I wanted to give you a chance to kind of really wrap in, you know, all the things that you wanted to. And I'd like to hear a little more about your consulting and you know, how people find you and really how that all works.
so I, you know, I'll show you the product here. Let me get it out here. Um, so I work with a company called Joburg Steak Slices.
Okay.
They are grass-fed, pasture-raised, air-dried steak slices, and we have a number of flavors. They're really delicious, and I help them with all of their marketing and their branding. And you know, we go to low carb shows. We go to, you know, people
So is
metabolic.
it like a jerky sort of a product?
Like it, but it's you know, it only has 3 ingredients. You know, it's
Okay.
beef, apple cider vinegar, and some spices. So,
Nice.
you know, jerky is usually, you know, full of a lot of junk,
Right.
preservatives.
All the nitrates and all the stuff that you're not supposed to have. Right.
We have no nitrate, no anything. And so what I've tried to do is help in, look, making the world is, the reality of the world is people are on the go, and that's
Sure.
not stop. They're not going to be able to sit down every time to have a square meal, but if we can help them along the way with something, you know, that's, you know, packed with nutrition and protein, and you know, not going to spike your blood sugar. And so this is, you know, it's been a great journey uh, for myself. And the company again is called Joburg Meats. And
So one of the things that I've always I got this from Dr. Gundry, but it was a good saying that came through some of his work. And you know, the idea is you are what you eat, and people can go, yeah, that makes sense. But the other thing is you are what you eat eats. And that's where sourcing, you know, things like meat and poultry and dairy and all that, you know, if you are eating an animal that's raised on soy and corn, you're eating soy and corn. And if that's good for you, then great. If it's not, you know, you got to be mindful of that. So is this a company that takes care of their cattle in a good way?
yeah, so that's, you know, that's why right here, pasture raised, grass fed. So this is
Excellent.
yeah, this is what we've prided ourselves in. And those words ring very, very warm to my heart, because the company I started in 1991 was called You Are What You Eat.
Nice.
And we had that the entrepreneur side was we 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 were pioneering putting health products into schools and
Nice.
mass market, and we built it up to we were 441 on the Inc. 500 fastest growing company in 1998. And so the saying rings a bell. Dr. Gundry is an interesting one. I he's one, like, for instance, you know, just because you mentioned him, you know, so like he hates tomatoes, and I'm like, I don't know, you know, like,
Well, actually, he hates tomatoes if they have peels and seeds.
yeah, but but I'm like, you know, come on, you know, so what I'm saying, like, I respect a lot what he says, but like,
Yeah, everything's got a double-edged sword, and you can take
like,
anything too far.
so like I'm saying to myself, look, you know, the tomato, okay, you know, says it has a lot of lectins, you know, but it has
Right.
all the nutrients. I mean, it has a light,
Agreed.
you know, I don't
Well,
know.
You know what though? The key is some people are very sensitive to lectins and it can be a problem. And some
Correct.
people are not. And I think that that's really, when you start looking at these teachers and these gurus or these authors or whoever, I mean, he had an experience for himself. He lost the weight, he got himself healthy, and he's what he did works for him. And a lot
Exactly.
of the things he did, I have taken some of it, but I've dialed way back, just like you're talking about. I'm like, I'm not going to be a slave to this stuff either. I cook my beans in a pressure cooker and it makes a great pot of beans, and I can say it doesn't have lectins in it. But I skin my zucchinis when I can and do things like that. But I'm not going to be a slave to this, and I'm not particularly sensitive to lectins that I can see. And so, we balance things as we can. That nutrition you're going to get, in my opinion, way outweighs the negative side of it. And if it didn't have the nutrition, I don't know that I would eat them, but it does.
And listen, so the other side of the coin is that I agree with him wholeheartedly um, about olive oil and cooking in olive oil, what the Italians have done for
Yeah,
thousands of years.
it's a staple, right?
So this is,
Italians, the Greeks, all the way back. Yeah,
so people are like, no, don't use olive oil for cooking because it's going to oxidize and do this. I go, but that's all they cooked with, and there was no issue with it.
exactly.
So to me, again, I take a common sense
Yeah,
look at that. So I was wavering a lot of times on olive oil and
yeah,
for cooking. Obviously use a lot for. But then
sure,
when he said that, that just made total sense. Like, because what
exactly,
worked, this worked for a country for years. All they had was olives, and
exactly.
whether it was low heat, high heat, was olive oil, and
And
nobody had issues.
right.
So therefore, I. So this is why I say take people. I look at the good things. Overall, he does a lot of great things, and I love when he does those things. Like superfood, and you know,
Absolutely.
and
And you don't take anybody as the be all and end all. You add
exactly,
information into your experience. Like you said, that anecdotal understanding is really where your big picture comes from and how it applies to you. And pay attention to what you're doing and how you feel. And I think that that's where you're going to find your answer. And what works for the other guy, maybe it works for him, but you're worried about you.
exactly. Bottom line, I think, my friend, is that if people eat real, fresh, and just not in something in a box in a just real food, fresh,
Understand what's in your food. Yeah,
you're gonna you're gonna
know
you're
everything that's in
gonna
it.
change your health dramatically,
Agreed.
dramatically the better. So
Agreed.
that I think that if we can leave our audience with one good point.
I think that's a fantastic point. Well, let's give you your parting shot. How does somebody get a hold of you if they want to learn more or reach you as a consultant or anything like that?
Thank you so much. So my email is Jon, Jon, at joburgmeats.com, joburgmeats.com, and can reach me by email. My phone number directly, I'm happy to give that, is 310-770-1967. And I'm open for any type of consulting in directly for health and nutrition and or marketing, which in the health and nutrition world. And if they want to order some Joburg meats, there's joburgmeats.com, joburgmeats meats.com. And we'll give a special to your listeners of thank you 15. If they put thank you 15 in the discount code, they'll get a 15% off.
Fantastic. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure to speak with you. I very seldom meet somebody who we have this many things in common. So, as I mentioned, as we were getting started, if you feel like you want to come back up and continue the discussion, I'd always welcome that. And I wish you the best.
I wish you the best too. I think it was great. Thank you, Joe, and feel good. feel better, and I wish God bless you for what you're doing.
Absolutely. Well, this has been another edition of the Healthy Living Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Grumbine, and we will see you next time.
This has been another episode of the Healthy Living Podcast. We produce this show so that people can share their stories, people that have overcome obstacles, people that are undergoing obstacles. We're building a community of health-minded individuals. If you're interested in supporting the show, please leave a review on the platform you're listening to it on. If you're interested in becoming a guest, please send an email to itsjoegrumbine@gmail.com, or you can send a note into the notes section of the podcast. All right. Well, thank you for supporting this show, and we hope you've enjoyed it.